So, Natalie, I have another question for you. I know I've had a few, I've got one more. This question is, food security, I think for most people, the idea of like preparing food and having food storage seems crazy huge. It almost seems insurmountable. How could one person take on the job that the grocery store has and all of the incredible industrial food supply? So maybe it's a short question that will turn to be a very long answer, but how can food security, from your perspective and experience helping hundreds, if not thousands of people become more food secure, how can food security become, or can it be very easy? What are some of the easy things that people can do when it comes to food security?
Yeah. So there's actually a bunch of things that are remarkably simple that increase our food security so much. So the first thing that I'm going to suggest is what I actually did when I was looking at building food security for my family. I was a single mom and I didn't have a big budget. And what I would do is I would take $25 every paycheck and I would invest it into buying something in bulk. So this is things like I was going to buy pasta anyways, so I just bought larger quantities of pasta. Now, the way things work economically in our food system is if you buy a large amount, the per ounce or per gram cost is lower. So I did this in part to build food security, but also to save money because I was a single mom with 4 kids, and that's difficult. And so when I buy a 20 pound or 20 kg bag of rice, it might be a relatively large one-time cost. So at that point, it was about $20 for a big bag of rice versus a $3 bag of rice. But the cost per 100 grams, there's just no comparison. So then that large bag of rice, I would use that $20 or $25 every paycheck to buy one large item. But the thing is, that large item might last me for a full year. It might last me 4 months. And so I was saving money along the way. So one really simple way to build food security is to think about, in my regular grocery shopping, what is one thing that I could spend an extra $25 on, but it's going to last me so much longer, and I'm going to have a cost savings on it. So this is something really simple to do. And you might just do that for one item every time you go grocery shopping. And trust me, it builds up quickly. So I quickly had all the staples that I needed to keep my family going and to have an incredible amount of food security just by doing this for, 24 months. You're going to have a pretty good stock of things built up over time. Now I'm using those things. It's part of my regular food habits. I'm eating those things all the time. So I might as well start there. It's simple and it's easy. I have a few other things, but I want to hear from you. I don't want to take all the good ones or the low-hanging fruit here. So what are some other easy food security steps? How can it be easy in your mind?
Yeah, because of my work, because I work in land design and helping individuals with large and small scale land designs, this was something that came to me a couple of years ago. And it came out of my experience of training to become a financial advisor, getting my securities ticket, getting my insurance tickets, all of those things. And it was something when you went to debt reduction, it was called the Snowball debt reduction process, where you took the thing, not necessarily that was the highest percentage in terms of what they were paying in terms of percentage on their debt, but the thing that was the easiest to pay off, because it was a snowball. It was a small success that got people excited. They're like, oh, it's doable. Because so many times we get into this mindset that, oh, this is way too big. So, breaking things down into small steps, which is, I think, what you're talking about. It's like $25 and something a little bit bigger, and starting with one staple, then moving to the next is great. And because I work in land design and food production from a growing standpoint, so much with clients, it was mint. It was, let's have you grow your own mint tea in year one. And it was always like, here's 5 mint plants. Usually we could get from somebody because they wanted to divide theirs. And you could produce all your own mint tea in a pot, on a balcony, in an urban center, in a rural place. Didn't matter where you were. You could always grow enough mint. And we would always grow it in the pot because mint is very aggressive. And so we would never put it directly into the ground unless we wanted to. And we wanted to see it take over. but it was so easy to grow, so easy to dry, so easy to pull off and put into a jar. And it was a simple way that you could experience the satisfaction of A, growing a portion of your own food supply, B, have the deep satisfaction, if not the overwhelming joy of knowing that, oh, I made this and this is in my cupboard and this is here. But once you have an experience of that, it changes your motivation to do it more. When you're starting at zero and there's no inertia, it's hard. It's hard to get started. But once you have those small successes, and let's face it, unless you're putting motor oil on it, mint's hard to kill. Like it wants to grow. So if you're somebody who's like, I can't grow anything, mint is probably your plant to start with. But that just gave people a lot of motivation. It gave people a lot of enthusiasm. They're like, oh, I can do this. I can grow with this. And they could do it in any situation. So they then had their mint supply. And then next year they were like, wait a second, can I grow rosemary? And it was just, mint was the gateway drug to growing your own food for so many people that it was just an easy thing to do. What was one of your next ones? I'm curious. What else do you got?
All right. So the next thing I would say is food security is not only easy, but enjoyable. So one of the things I remember doing as a child, and remember, if a child can do it, it's relatively easy, is I would go pick berries. Picking berries is still one of my favorite, and to me, easy things to do because I love it so much. So growing up in Winnipeg, it was picking raspberries because all these old homes along these river lots, along the Red River, close to where I grew up, there were so many mature stands of raspberries just all through the riverbanks there. And so I could go and pick raspberries as much as I wanted. Now, where I am now, it's blueberries and Saskatoon berries. I can pick as much as I want. And so it's easy for me because I enjoy it, because it's such a lovely experience. For somebody, it might be apples. Maybe your neighbors, you live in a mature community and everybody has an apple tree in the backyard and nobody uses them all. So maybe that's the easy step because it's really fun to go pick apples. It's enjoyable. Or maybe it's a you pick, and that's, it's easy because I'm thinking of all of those, strawberry rhubarb pies that I'm going to make, or the strawberry jam. But adding that level of enjoyment to it can make food security really easy. So it doesn't have to be something necessarily that we grow ourselves like mint, but something that we're going to go and pick because nature grew it for us. It's, it's not something that we had to nurture ourselves, but it's just out there. And we need to learn where it lives and how to go get it. So for me, that's another way that food security can be easy.
That's awesome. I think one that comes to me is, bulk buying is a dream for those of us that hate shopping. It's a dream. The idea that I only have to shop once a year for something, once a year, I only have to pick up all my beans, all my grains, all my salt, all my pepper. Like, it's a dream. And I think continuing on the story of like following the joy of something, if you're of the ilk that you don't like shopping, you don't like going for something and paying, really, when you take a look at the per 100 gram or the per quarter pound of something, if you don't understand that that's incredibly valuable from an investment standpoint or from a cost standpoint, just the fact that I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about rice for almost 10 months a year. I don't have to think about beans for 10 months a year. I don't have to think about salt for 10 months a year. I've got it. It's there. I don't have to think about it. It's like, for those of us that are like, are those a nice pair of pants? Great. I'll take 3 of them. And I won't have to think about pants for 5 years. It's a great joy. And I'm not going to make it about men or about women. It's just for those of us that hate that process, and I do, it's such a joy. And I think from that, following joy is following your tastes, like having more of something or building something incredible, building a type of food or growing a type of food that you love. Just following your taste buds instead of growing what you think you should or stockpiling what you think you should. Just having more of that is such a joy. I remember when I introduced the idea of bulk buying to my bonus daughter. She's a bonus. She came with the relationship, nothing to do with me. She just showed up with the relationship. And she's a big lover of English breakfast tea. huge. Every morning, afternoon, maybe 2 or 3 times in the evening. That was a big deal for her. And so I was like, hey, do you want to go in on this bulk buy I'm having? And she's like, well, what's bulk buying and why would I do that? And when she found it was $2 cheaper when we were looking at the boxes. And then I was like, well, let's take a look at loose leaf. And then it was like $3 cheaper for what you got and all the rest of it. And she's just blown away. I can have all of this thing I love in a form that's right beside me. And for those, and she's definitely part of this, that loves making a kitchen look beautiful in an urban context, glass with tea, and now it's a focal point. Now it's something that makes everyone go, oh, I love your kitchen. That just was another piece of increasing the quality of life, increasing the joy of what you have. And so I think, following what's easy, following the joy, and using things that just increase the quality of life has been phenomenal for me to make it really easy. Do you have one last one for us?
I do. And, for some people, they're going to say, well, that's not easy, but I'm going to challenge this. That food security is as easy as learning to cook with whole ingredients. Because here's the thing. If you go and store all of those things and you don't know how to use them, they're not of use to you. They're not valuable to you. They're going to go to waste. They're going to sit in the back of your pantry for 10 years. So learning to cook with whole ingredients. So instead of buying a box of pancake mix and adding water, learn how to make pancakes from whole ingredients. Or instead of only buying salsa, buy the ingredients to make fresh salsa. If you've got a food processor, let me tell you, it takes about 3 minutes to make salsa because you literally just put it all in and blend. So having those skills and knowing the recipes that are going to use basic whole ingredients, that's food security. Knowing how to cook dry beans. Let me tell you, my family loves baked beans. They call them cowboy beans, but they love cowboy beans so much. They'd eat it every day if I was willing to feed it to them. Me knowing how to cook from dry beans, that's a big deal because you know what? It tastes better than what you get in the can too. And that's a food security skill. So it's as simple as knowing those recipes. And I'm going to make it simpler because I'm going to make it more enjoyable. It's as simple as learning the recipes for foods that you loved that your grandparents made or that somebody in your community made. That's food security too. So learning to make tortillère. So this is a recipe. It's a food that we eat at Christmas time. Learning to make that from basic ingredients. So I never had to worry about going to a store to buy that kind of thing. I knew how to make it because it meant making pastry crust and combining spices in a pleasing way to make a meat pie. Knowing how to make poutine au sac. It's like clootie dumpling if you're Scottish. It's this big dumpling that you steam and it's like a Christmas pudding if you're English. So there's lots of different ways to label it, but knowing how to make that from scratch, not only am I learning those skills of cooking from scratch and how to use all these basic ingredients, I'm enjoying childhood memories of eating these things. So that's how easy food security can be.
Natalie, thank you so much. It's such a rich conversation. It's so much fun to talk about and to explore these pieces with you. And that's probably why we made a course out of this. That's probably why we spent the time to say, let's spend 7 months with people from February to September. Let's go through 12 modules. Let's help people understand like how much food it takes to feed your family. And from those numbers, how am I going to source that food? Am I going to buy it? Am I going to grow it? Am I going to trade it or forage it or harvest it or hunt it? And what I love about this course that we're offering is it helps people who are brand new or who are seasoned really dial things in. And you can go back through that material ad nauseum. It's there forever to deepen your food security and, dare I say, food sovereignty, to really build a more food resilient household for you and your family. And if you're one of those people that don't like being guided, you're just like, no, just give me the instructions. I'll figure it out myself. We have a DIY option. Super easy to do. All you got to do is go through the materials, go through the workbooks, go through the spreadsheets, go through the step-by-step checklist. We have a step-by-step checklist. It's really hard to screw up. And you end up with this beautiful satisfaction that you know where your family's food is coming from. And if you're looking at that and you're going, okay, that's great, but I kind of want a taster, a teaser, the first module is free. All you have to do is sign up for a account at regenerativeliving.online and go to the very first module of family food security or family food security DIY. Check it out. You get a nice taster of Natalie and I and what we offer. It's a great way to jump into this if you're interested. Thanks so much for listening. And again, if you're interested in this, there's never a bad time to start worrying about and planning for your food security. Hopefully we'll see you in the next video.